Our next storyteller is a high school teacher in DC public schools. Yeah, I know, right? We recruited him to be part of a show called After School Special, which we did for Teacher Appreciation Week. And we just feel so lucky to have found him and to have him as part of our community now. So please welcome Chris Obermeyer.
I had just started my second year of teaching, and as I was finishing up for the day, I went over to check my email one last time. I opened the window, and my heart sank a bit. I had a new one. It was from a parent. Those still make you nervous your second year. Reluctantly, I clicked it open, and my heart sank even deeper. My son is being bullied and harassed in your class for his perceived sexual orientation. I immediately flashed back to my 5th grade year, and the first time I was called a faggot. I didn't know what the word meant back then. I thought it was just another word you said to be mean to someone, like calling them a butthead. I had no clue how scarring that word would become in middle school and high school. I went back to the email and I was like, I have to reply to this right now. I can't say, well, it's after 3:30, maybe I'll reply tomorrow. And so I quickly typed the only reply I knew, I'm gonna fix this. And so as I went home that night, I was like, wait, what did I say I was gonna do? And I started to throw around ideas in my head of what I could do. I was like, well, National Coming Out Day is coming up in a couple of days. Maybe I could do something for that. And so I called a couple of friends, and I threw the idea of maybe I should just come out to my students. And the first friend I called, they said, Chris, what if you lose your job? And I called another friend, and they said, what are parents going to say? And then my biggest fear was, what if I actually make things worse? So that night, as I was tossing and turning in bed, I was like, well, maybe I should just do it anyway. And I started thinking of how do I tell my students that I'm gay? What type of technique can I use? And I thought of a technique that I use every day when they come in the classroom. Every day they walk in, and there are 2 questions on the board that they have to answer. The first question is a question about the content they learned in the class before. And the second question is just a question about themselves. It's a way that I try to build classroom community. Early in the year, it's questions like, tell me what's your favorite color, or tell me what animal represents your personality. And so I thought of asking them, tell me about a time when you felt judged for the way you looked, acted, or actually were. And that night, I finally fell asleep, and when I woke up the next morning, I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen. As my first class walked in, and they hurriedly got in their seats and started writing down the questions, there was a timer, of course. And as the timer went off, I could feel my heart skip a beat. I just still wasn't sure what was going to happen. And I saw hands go up all around the room. I never made them share, but as the year went on and we got closer, they wanted to share more and more. And so I called in a student in the back, and she said, well, whenever my friends and I go shopping, security follows us around because they think that we're going to shoplift. One of my other students, he raises his hand and says, whenever I get on the metro, women pull their purses closer to them because they think that I'm going to steal. Another girl said, I'm the fattest girl in my ballet class, and all the other girls make fun of me. I was humbled by their honesty. I took a deep breath, and I sat down at my desk, and I said, let me tell you about a time when I felt judged. When I came out to my family, when I told my mom and my dad that I was gay, my mom was amazing. She said, I don't care, it doesn't matter, I love you anyway, I just want you to be happy. My dad, well, that's another story. And the room was silent. I hadn't planned for the transition, and I was like, does anybody have any questions? And there were none, so we just moved on with our lesson. As that class filed out, I was like, was that a failure? I still have 4 classes over the next 2 days. And I wasn't quite sure what to do until my next class started coming in, and I saw the kid that was being bullied. That's when I knew I had to keep going. And after I came out to that class, they all started clapping. And it was one of the most meaningful experiences of my entire life, to have a room full of 13, 14, and 15-year-old kids who were clapping because they were proud of you. And I looked over at the kid who was being bullied, and he was in tears. And I didn't get the chance to talk to him, and as that class left, I really wasn't quite sure what was going on. And I continued to come out to my classes over the next 2 days, and I got to my last class. Let me tell you a secret. Teachers, we have favorites and we have least favorites. I hated this class. And I was like, do I really have to tell them? But I did, and as I came out to them and I asked if anyone had any questions, my toughest kid raised his hand in the back of the room. Yeah. And he stood up and said, Mr. O, it's okay, we don't care, we still love you. Over the next 2 weeks, it was really exciting to see the classroom dynamic begin to change as students felt more comfortable and I felt more comfortable. And we became really close. Over that same time period, that student who was being bullied started to come to see me at lunch. And over the course of a couple of weeks, he came out to me, and a little while later, he ended up coming out to his mom, and then out to a few close friends. It wasn't until February that he runs in my room and says, Mr. O, look at my Facebook. I was like, oh God. So he's holding it, and I look at it, and he had come out to all of his friends on Facebook. Nervously, I scrolled down a little bit, and he had over 100 likes and over 30 positive comments praising him for his courage. It was in that moment that I realized, in a school of 1,700 students, this kid couldn't be the only one who was feeling alone, the only one who was depressed, the only one who was being harassed and who was being bullied. And over the course of the next month or two, with the help of that student and many other students, the student who was being bullied, his mom even, as well as many other parents and faculty members, we planned the city's first ever high school Pride Day. And as I stood in the middle of the room with 1,700 students, rainbow tables everywhere, I was amazed to see all the students interacting with people at the tables. Over here, I saw students who were buying Wilson Pride buttons that were in rainbow. Over here, students were buying bracelets that were in rainbow to support their friends. And all around the room, students were signing pledges to say that they would be accepting of each other, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender expression or identity. At the end of the event, I went over and I started looking at the pledges. The idea was that we could staple them together to make one of those chains like you might have in a preschool or kindergarten classroom. It was rainbow. And so, as I started stapling them together, I got stuck on one name. It was the name of that bully. And that's when I knew it was all worth it.